I was 22 years old when I learned that betrayal doesn't always come loudly. Sometimes it arrives softly, hidden behind polite smiles and a casual shrug, as if your feelings are the smallest, most insignificant thing in the room. My sister Emma's wedding was supposed to be a celebration, a moment of joy for the whole family. The venue was a luxury villa, white walls, glass balconies, and flower arrangements that looked like they belonged in a movie. When I stepped out of the cab, suitcase in hand, I felt excited. Nervous, but excited. It had been a long year for me, and I hoped this trip would bring us closer again. I walked inside searching for my parents, expecting hugs, maybe even a "we missed you." Instead, I found my mother directing the decorators while my father hovered around the groom's family like a hopeful politician. "Mom," I said with a smile, "where's my room? I want to put my stuff down before helping." She didn't even look at me at first. She just kept talking to the florist about the table centerpieces. Only when I repeated myself did she turn to me, briefly, almost impatiently. "Oh. Your room." She brushed her hands together. "Right." Something inside me tightened, but I stayed quiet. I followed her to the reception desk where she flipped through the list. "Oh dear," she said, frowning. "We gave the extra room to Mr. Dalton." I blinked. "Who's Mr. Dalton?" "The groom's investor," my father answered from behind us. "He flew in from Switzerland. Very important man. We needed to make sure he was comfortable." "So where am I staying?" I asked, forcing my voice to stay steady. My mother sighed as if I were the one causing trouble. "Well, the villa is completely full now. You'll have to arrange something nearby. A hostel or a motel, whatever you can find." I actually laughed for a second because I thought they were joking. But their faces stayed completely calm, as if this was the most reasonable solution in the world. "You gave my room to a stranger?" I whispered. "Investor," my father corrected, as if that made the betrayal respectable. "And it's not a big deal," my mother added. "You're young. You'll adjust." Their words hit me harder than I expected. Young. Adjustable. As if my comfort didn't matter at all. As if I wasn't part of the family that was celebrating this wedding. I swallowed the ache rising in my throat. "You could have told me before I came." "We were busy," my mother said. "Try not to make this about you. It's your sister's wedding." Of course. It was always about someone else. I stepped outside with my suitcase, pretending to check my phone so they wouldn't see my eyes filling. I searched for nearby hostels, choosing the cheapest one because I didn't have the luxury of pretending I was rich. When I booked it, I felt something inside me crack, not loudly, but painfully. As I walked back in, my parents didn't ask if I found a place. They didn't ask if I needed help. They simply smiled and returned to their conversations. Maybe that was the moment I realized that I didn't truly have a place in that villa, not just a room, but a space in their priorities, in their hearts. The kind of space family is supposed to hold for you. I smiled anyway. A small, brittle smile. Because if there was one thing I was good at, it was pretending. And that night, in my tiny, dim hostel room, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering when exactly I became the girl no one saved a room for. I didn't know it yet, but this was the beginning. The beginning of leaving. The beginning of disappearing. The beginning of becoming someone they would regret forgetting. The next morning, I stood in front of the hostel's cracked mirror, trying to look like someone who hadn't cried half the night. The room smelled faintly of old paint and lemon cleaner, and the window let in a breeze that was colder than it should have been. But I straightened my dress, fixed my hair, and forced the corners of my lips upward. Because today was my sister's wedding. And I refused to walk in looking broken. When I reached the villa, the smell of fresh roses and vanilla candles wrapped around me like a reminder of what I didn't belong to. Everyone was dressed in shimmering outfits, laughing, hugging, taking selfies. I blended into the background the second I stepped inside, like a ghost floating between people who didn't notice the temperature drop. My sister Emma looked beautiful, glowing, adored, the center of everything. When I walked up to her, she hugged me quickly but lightly, the kind of hug you give when you're distracted. "You made it," she said, already turning back to her bridesmaids. "Of course," I murmured. "Wouldn't miss it." But she didn't hear me. She was too busy giggling with two girls who had actual rooms in the villa. My mother passed by, adjusting her pearl necklace. "Don't stand here uselessly. Go help with the guest tables." I nodded, even though the sting of her words pressed against my chest. Useless. Young. Adjustable. I was beginning to see a pattern in how they saw me. I walked into the main hall and started placing name cards on tables. No one talked to me except to ask where the champagne was or if I could bring extra napkins. Some guests assumed I was part of the staff, and honestly, I didn't correct them. Maybe it was easier that way. I kept smiling. Smiling while my chest felt like it was being squeezed. Smiling while every reminder of the room they gave away dug deeper into my heart. At one point, I saw Mr. Dalton, the investor who had taken my room. He was tall, gray-haired, wearing a suit worth more than my entire savings. My parents hovered around him, offering tea, seating him in the best chair, laughing at jokes that weren't even funny. I wondered if they would have cared this much if I needed something. Probably not. During the ceremony, I stood in the back even though I was family. There weren't enough chairs, someone said. But I knew the truth. If I insisted, I'd look difficult, dramatic, selfish. And I was tired of being the one who ruined the mood. So I let myself become invisible. As my sister walked down the aisle, I felt a strange mix of love and loneliness. She was starting a new chapter surrounded by people who adored her. I was standing behind a pillar, trying not to look like the girl whose family forgot she existed. When the ceremony ended, everyone cheered, clapped, and hugged each other. I clapped too. I even smiled wide enough for my cheeks to hurt. In every photo, I looked perfectly happy, exactly what they wanted. But inside? Inside, something was slowly dying. By the time dinner was served, I'd made up my mind. This wasn't one small insult. This wasn't about a room at all. This was a pattern, a lifetime of being the afterthought, the convenient child, the filler, the one who would always adjust, always shrink, always accept the crumbs. So I made a decision. A quiet one. A powerful one. After tonight, I would disappear. No fight. No drama. No goodbye. Just distance. I stayed until the last sparkler faded in the garden, took one final look at the villa glowing under the night sky, then slipped away into the dark like I was never there. None of them noticed. Not one person stopped me. And that was the moment I finally understood. It wasn't that they forgot to save me a room. They simply never saved me a place in their lives. The morning after the wedding, I checked out of the hostel with my single suitcase and a heart that felt strangely empty, but not destroyed. I remember standing on the sidewalk, the sun warming my face, realizing something important. No one was coming after me. No one even noticed I was gone. And somehow, that gave me freedom. I bought a one-way bus ticket to a city far enough away that my family wouldn't accidentally run into me, yet close enough that I didn't feel like I was abandoning my entire life. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I didn't leave a note. I didn't answer texts. I didn't explain. I owed them nothing. The first few weeks were hard. I rented a tiny room in a shared apartment with creaky floors and a leaky sink. I worked double shifts at a cafe, my feet aching every night. But for the first time, everything I did was for me, not for my family's approval, not to fit into someone else's expectations. I felt alone, yes. But I also felt alive. After 1 month, I signed up for evening classes at a digital design institute, something I had always wanted to do but was told wasn't practical. My parents preferred Emma's path, something fancy, elegant, worthy of showing off. I was always the creative child, the one whose passions were considered hobbies rather than dreams. But now I had no one to tell me what was unrealistic. I studied every night until my eyes burned, sometimes falling asleep on my notes. On weekends, I practiced designing logos and websites, slowly building a small portfolio. My days were busy, exhausting, and quietly fulfilling. Then, around month 5, something unbelievable happened. I landed my first freelance job. It didn't pay much, but when I received that tiny payment notification, my hands shook. It wasn't the money. It was the proof. Proof that I could build myself without being saved by anyone. By month 7, my freelancing jobs increased. My clients recommended me to their friends. Companies emailed me for work. My income tripled compared to my cafe salary. I finally quit the cafe job and focused entirely on design. I moved into a new apartment, small but bright, with a balcony where I could drink tea in the mornings and watch the sunrise. I bought a real desk, hung inspirational posters, and decorated my space with plants that made the room feel alive. For the first time in my life, I owned something that was mine. Around month 9, I realized something strange. My family still hadn't contacted me. Not properly, at least. They had sent a few half-hearted texts. "Where are you these days? Your sister asked about you. Hope you're fine." But none of them followed up. None of them called. None of them apologized for the villa incident. None of them said they missed me. They thought I was the kind of girl who always came back no matter how she was treated. They were wrong. Month 12 changed everything. One of my designs went viral on social media, a minimalistic wedding invitation I posted for practice. It got thousands of shares. Suddenly, my inbox exploded with clients from all over the country. I created my own design brand, simple, elegant, and with my name on it. My name. The one no one saved a room for. By month 15, I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. I had savings, my own office corner, and clients who respected me. But something deeper had changed, something powerful. I wasn't the girl who walked into the villa looking for a room. I wasn't the girl who cried in a hostel bed. I wasn't the girl who blended into background photos. I had become someone my past self wouldn't even recognize. Confident. Independent. Untouchable. And although I didn't expect it, life has a funny way of circling back. In the 15th month, my phone rang, and the name flashing on the screen froze me in place. My mother. For the first time in over a year. I answered, not out of love, but out of curiosity. And her trembling voice on the other end told me everything I needed to know. "Sweetheart, we need your help." I didn't reply. Not yet. Because the woman I had become knew one thing. They were about to meet a very different version of me. When my mother's trembling voice said, "Sweetheart, we need your help," I didn't feel the rush of urgency she expected. Instead, I felt calm, eerily calm. The kind of calm that comes when a wound has scarred over completely. "What happened?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. It's about Emma," my mother whispered. "Her business, her marriage, things are falling apart. We need someone who understands design, someone who can help fix the mess. Investors are backing out. She's really struggling." Oh, the irony. They had pushed me aside for the groom's investor. And now they needed the girl who wasn't worth a room. I could have said no. I could have laughed. I could have reminded her of every time I was an afterthought. But revenge doesn't always come as punishment. Sometimes it comes as the truth. "Send me the address," I said simply. Not because they deserved it, but because I was no longer the girl they dismissed. And I wanted them to see exactly who I had become. 2 days later, I drove to the place that once made me feel invisible, the same villa, now rented out as a business event location for Emma's meeting with her remaining partners. But it looked different this time. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was the 15 months that rebuilt me from the ground up. Maybe it was the confidence in the way I walked through those front doors. My heels clicked on the marble floors. Heads turned. People moved aside. For the first time, I didn't blend into the background. My mother and father stood near the entrance. Their faces softened with relief when they saw me, but behind their smiles was guilt. The kind that eats at you quietly until you can't pretend anymore. "You look different," my father said awkwardly. "I am different," I replied, walking past him. Emma was inside the meeting hall, pacing, her makeup smudged, her eyes tired. She looked up when she heard me, and for a second, shock flickered across her face. "You came," she whispered. "I did." She swallowed, trying not to cry. "I'm sorry. For the wedding. For the room. For everything." Her voice cracked. "I was selfish. I let everyone treat you like you were less." Those words, the ones I had waited my whole life to hear, didn't heal me. But they mattered. Because they were finally honest. I nodded. "It hurt." "I know," she whispered. "And I regret it every day." I stepped closer. "But regrets don't rebuild lives. Actions do." She nodded slowly. "Then please, help me fix this." And that's exactly what I did. Not for them. Not for forgiveness. But because I had built a career from nothing, and this was a chance to prove to myself how far I had come. I took over her presentation, redesigned her brand, reorganized her pitch, and coached her through every slide. By the end of the meeting, her remaining investors shook her hand with renewed confidence. When the room emptied and the stress drained from her face, she hugged me tightly, tighter than she ever had before. "I don't deserve you," she whispered. "Maybe not," I said softly. "But I'm here anyway." Later, as I walked out of the villa, my parents followed me to the doors. "We're proud of you," my mother said quietly. "More than you know." "I wish we had seen your worth earlier," my father added. I turned to them, my expression calm and steady. "I always had worth," I said. "You just weren't looking." And with that, I walked toward my car, not disappearing this time, not running away, not crying. Just walking forward. Stronger. Smarter. Unbroken. My revenge wasn't about hurting them. My revenge was showing them the woman they had overlooked. The woman they couldn't ignore anymore.